Okay, hello everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to a new year. Welcome to 2022. I can't even believe it. It's like, wow, 2022, that's amazing. Here we are. I hope that you had a great holiday, however you celebrate this time of year. I hope that as we begin this new year, I say hope, I do hope, but also intend to bring, some energy and focus and direction to creating an amazing new year. I think for many months, or I don't know, weeks or months over the last couple of years, there's been times personally when I feel like I kind of raised the white flag around being intentional in my life. There were too many complications, too many challenges, things out of my control, stuff that I felt I was banging my head against a wall and wasn't moving. There were so many different moments that I felt not powerful in the way that I was conducting myself and my choices and the way I was, being in the world. And that's obviously antithetical to what our work is about and what my, personal purpose in doing the work of transformation in my adult life. And so I am choosing, refreshing, recommitting to a way of being in our world, in the world that is focused, clear, powerful, passionate, and optimistic. And so tonight's conversation is kind of an obvious one in the new year, is around declarations. But I want to talk about that because if you've done at least the advanced course at Synergy, certainly if you've done the leadership program, declarations is not a new word or a new conversation. Everybody's heard of the word, but not a new conversation for you. But this is also one of those things that I've discovered that unless it's fresh, unless it's thought of newly, unless it's revisited, then it just becomes conceptual. It just becomes blah, blah. And, it's interesting. We had a meeting last night with our key leaders group, and we meet once a quarter. So all the people leading different programs, leading LP, leading the Journey of Mastery, leading the Spanish level 1, et cetera, leading, Greece, leading, et cetera, all the stuff that we're doing. Excuse me. I had a conversation last night with our group of leaders. And we were talking about the distinction of completion. And that's something that I spoke of the last video or the one before, I think the one before. And completion is one of those things that doesn't live. It's great conceptually. We understand it conceptually. It's powerful conceptually. We go about it. We make a list. We get busy. We go and do stuff. But then it doesn't stay vivid in that way unless you keep digging in. And one of the conversations that we were having is that as leaders at Synergy and leaders in the world, one of the privileges of being a leader is the chance to be reminded of and challenged to generate completion in life. Completion isn't like a thing, like show me completion. It's like, show me a breakthrough, show me, those are things that live when we engage actively in them. So completion is one of those distinctions that, and when we were talking about leading, and when you've led long enough, it's easy to sit back and rely upon your skill set of leading, your bag of tricks, if you like. In level 1, okay, I'm going to talk about the trust. I'm going to talk about being on the ice. I'm going to talk about above the line, below the line. It's easy to rely upon those things. What makes the quality of the way we lead at Synergy superior, in my opinion, is our continued commitment to engage in completion. When something is off, to go after it. When I sniff something, to go after it. When there's a conversation, no matter how much I don't want to have it, go after it. So that's the conversation as we ended the year, was around completion. And declarations the energy around it is similar to me in the sense that just because you made declarations a year ago, and even if you made declarations on New Year's Day or tonight or next week or whatever, it's not just the content of those declarations, it's the act of declaring that is really important. It's the essence of what declaring means and the power of it. So I wanted to read you a couple of definitions around what declarations mean. We talk about, the first thing I want to read to you, these are very like 2 sentences things. The first thing I want to read is a conversation that we have in the first weekend of the Journey of Mastery. And the first weekend of the Journey of Mastery is all about living inside of a context of abundance in life, regardless of your, financial status, regardless of your age, regardless of your profession, regardless of your education, etc. How does one live in the mindset of abundance? So here's a conversation that we speak of. It's one of the principles of abundance. Declaration is affirming that the universe has the resources to manifest your choice or goal. So I love that sentence because I think often declaring things feels like such a personal thing, like the declaration itself is located with me. I love that first sentence because it's so much bigger than that. So declaration is affirming that the universe has the resources to manifest your choice or goal. So in essence, a partnership, in essence, a trust and a faith and, a dance. A declaration is made in a surrendering way. I love that too. You can't bully declarations to happen most of the time. Sometimes maybe, but most of the time. At least the ones that are bigger than what's predictable. So a declaration is made in a surrendering way, peaceful, calm, graceful. Do not attempt to force the universe to give you what you want, but persist with full intention of realizing your goal. Okay, so I love that. And when declaring, be very certain of the ability of the universe to assist you, and also know that the result may come in unexpected ways. So as a paragraph, I love that about what declarations are. If you're willing to open your mouth and make some big declarations in the year of 2022 for you, then I think it's also like unwise to locate those declarations just within what you're capable of, just inside of your universe. How, if you're going to get bigger, if you're going to take some risks, then setting up a partnership, if you like, with the universe, being surrendered, being peaceful, being graceful, allowing is a wise way to approach what declarations are. And there's 2 main reasons that we find declarations inside of the work of Synergy to be central. Okay, it's not a to-do list, it's not goals, it's not hopes and wishes. Declarations are very specific. So declarations obviously are in language. Declarations have a definition to them. So what, by, when, and there's 2 main components. So one of the benefits of declaring is because you put it out there. When you declare something, you put it out there. You say it. All right. You stand there and you declare. Okay. One of the benefits of that kind of language is beyond that point, it puts your attention on it. You put your attention on those things that you've declared. It's not just amusing. It's not while I'm driving in my car thinking, wouldn't that be nice? No, you've taken, if you like, your own energy and lasered it and directed it. So that's one of the benefits of declarations, is that you've set in motion something that puts your attention on it going forward. If you remember the OWTF, do whatever it takes, it enables that version of you to step forth. It opens the door for the, oh, what the fuck version of you to step into. And so that's one of the benefits of declaring. So you put your eye on something specific. So again, if you've done the advanced course, the leadership program and beyond, you know that any coaching you receive is really around that, is the specifics of your declaration, because you're putting something in motion. So that's one benefit. The second benefit of declarations is, okay, bing, bing, sorry, my notifications. The second is around, it's a little kind of woo-woo, but I am a believer because of what I've witnessed over 40 years of doing this, more or less. When you are making declarations that are pure, that are clean, that are wholesome, I'm using lots of different words, that are honest, you know, the universe is listening. The universe is listening. And if you are someone who's learned through your workings at Synergy and in life, if you have learned the power of your word, in other words, saying X and doing X, being a human being of your word, being a person of integrity. So when you say X, you go and create X. If you've developed any of that muscle in the human being you are today, when you make a declaration, the universe is listening to you. The universe is listening. The universe wants to be on board, wants to champion, wants to partner, wants that to happen. So it's really kind of, it's like the power of like minds. And in this, and married with a faith in the universe as well. So it's kind of a bit weird, but I think of, okay, the universe is going to put faith and trust in me, then I'll put faith and trust in the universe. So again, it's an obvious conversation, given this is our first live session of this year, to talk about declarations, but I wanted to push the refresh button around what declarations mean and the value and the impact. And unless you were in, the advanced course or the leadership program recently, when was the last time you made life-altering declarations? And so this is an obvious time of year to think about that. Okay. So I wanted to share some of my declarations with you. And I have a few, okay, not too many. I won't bore you, but I've got 3 or 4. So the first declaration involves kind of an announcement. And the February in-person graduate workshop, we're going to postpone. And I don't like to say that, and I've resisted saying it until now, but there are just too many signs of uncertainty in the world. There are, in the news with Omicron and the hospitals being overwhelmed once again. And then all these, for example, large companies, Apple and Ford and CNN and BlackRock and Google, they've all pushed back their times of opening once again in person. So, and I've spoken, so that's fine. We're not any of those companies. We're not like that, but that's fine. But I also want to respect the moment. And we are, through this whole 2 years, we've been conservative, which I'm not normally a conservative person. So, but around this, we've been kind of conservative. I'm not interested in putting anybody in a situation that might risk. I'm not interested in putting anybody in a situation that might be, oh, I'm not really sure, but I want to because I love you, and I don't want to create that scenario. So we're going to postpone the in-person workshop in February. For those of you who've registered, I'm going to share with you the new date. If it works for you to join us, obviously I want that. That's number 1. And number 2, if it doesn't, then we'll refund you for the tuition that you paid. Okay, that was the promise that I made during this time of uncertainty. So that's like the first part of the announcement. Here's the declaration. My declaration is by Memorial Day. Okay, so by the end of May, we will have held this workshop in person. So that's my first declaration. And my second declaration is that that in-person workshop will have a minimum of 50 graduates in there with us. And, we've shared with you about that weekend. We created it, we worked on it. I'm thrilled about what that weekend is going to be. And there's the component of being in person. There's again, I was sharing about this last night. The first thing that I led in person was in September, and I was doing some corporate stuff in Israel. And it was the first trip I had taken since COVID. And it was the first thing I'd led in person since COVID. And it was different. When I first started leading the Friday Night Lives, when I first started doing the basic refresher, all the stuff that we were coming up with in, early 2020, I guess, within a couple of months of COVID, this environment was very unusual and uncomfortable for me. I was doing makeup. I was I don't know how the lights work. Oh, I had my mute buttons on. I was I was so unfamiliar and uncomfortable in the environment. And then I got comfortable. And then I stepped back into in person in September, and I was uncomfortable. It was a little, I don't know, I felt embarrassed, sort of there's an exposure you have in person that here we don't have to have. I've got pajamas on underneath my, pretty pink shirt, so in this environment, there's a safety and a protection. In person, people see your body move and the way you talk and the stuff, and drinking coffee and you, them, but there's a connection there that's missing in this online world. There's at least as this gets rolling again, there's a rawness, a discomfort, but it's not a bad thing. So I'm excited to do this weekend with whoever of you are going to jump in with me. I want everybody, but so that's a long way around to say my declaration is that before Memorial Day of this year, we'll have at least 50 people in that in-person workshop. So that's one declaration I wanted to share with you. Second declaration is that in the year of 2022, we will conduct at least 10 programs in person and 10 programs online, whatever those programs are. So that's my second declaration, at least 10 programs in person and 10 programs online. My third declaration is that in this year, we will continue to deliver the programs of Synergy in a minimum of 4 different languages. So obviously English, Spanish, Greek, Hebrew, and with the possibility this year of Portuguese. So that's my declaration too. We'll continue to deliver our programs in at least 4 languages this year. Around Synergy Business Associates, I declare we will have at least 15 different corporate engagements this year, in the year of 2022. And I've shared this before, but one of the things that companies are forced to contend with is the human component of their businesses. The personnel, people staying, people going, people coming to work, people only wanting to work at home, people doing hybrid, people being stressed and anxious, people, withdrawing, all the challenges we've all faced in our personal lives. Companies have to contend with that for their entire staff. So the work that Synergy provides, which is around self-awareness, being grounded, providing leadership in the face of uncertainty, I'm very excited and impassioned by that. So at least 15 of those engagements this year. And then the last declaration I want to make is around our nonprofit Synergy Youth Empowerment. We've ended up kind of mothballing that during COVID because, I've got children of my own that did remote schooling for over a year. That was really hard on them. So to expect them to spend a weekend, in addition to that, we made a decision we weren't going to do that. And we were going to wait till when we could be in person. So I declare at least one Teen Basic this year in person and in partnership with a community organization. It could be any of the ones we worked with before, Eastside House, Harlem Children's Zone, etc. So that's my 5th declaration. And then just they're not really formulated in terms of declarations, but things that I wanted to share. My personal commitment this year is to continue to empower our graduates who are up to stuff. You probably don't know this, but you all know that Nick Kastronakis leads the curriculum in Greece. And I won't share some of his exciting news, but he's got some exciting news happening in Greece. Big players joining his curriculum of trainings. But there's this young guy, Mario, who's now in the leadership program. And Mario is in the LGBTQ community. And he's like 18 years old, 19 years old. He's still in school. And so he had a commitment. He wanted to do some LGBTQ workshops in Crete, that there was not much exposure of that community, that there was, denial, that it was challenging to be a young person. He described himself as the only guy wearing nail polish in his class. So he's created, and I supported him. We worked together for a few weeks. He created some workshops for the LGBT community in Greece. And he's done 2 so far, and this weekend will be his 3rd. So I'm up to supporting him and encouraging him in every way that I can. So he's an example of somebody that's up to something. And then just like on a personal note too, I finally, after such a long time of trying to, I reconnected with an old friend of mine from South Africa. Her name is Joy George. And she was a graduate. She did our workshops, close to 30 years ago now in Cape Town. She's extraordinary, passionate, amazing woman. And we've reconnected. So I don't know exactly where this is going to lead. She's on me, come back to South Africa, come back to South Africa. So I don't know, it's possible that we might come up with something that we can do once again in Cape Town this year. I'm not ready to make a declaration because there's too many things I can't quite grasp yet, but I just want to, that's like out there too. But anybody that's up to stuff, I'm looking to, partner and, bring some excitement and some optimism and some energy to this year, and to, all the hard work that we all do and making it extraordinary. So I just wanted to share those things with you in terms of personally. For you, I just, invite and I offer, we're into the weekend now. What are your declarations? What are your declarations this year professionally? What are your declarations this year around your health? What are your declarations this year around finances? How about your home? What are the declarations that you want to make around transformation? And I don't mean transformation literally like synergy or enrollment into the basic, but I mean that too. But I mean, like, what's your declaration around transforming the world we're in? There's challenging times ahead. And, we get to bring some passion and drive to the world we're in. So what are your declarations around that? So I just offer you to, reflect upon that this weekend and next week, and, and really revisit what declarations mean to you. The next Facebook Live will be in 2 weeks, which is January 21st. And next weekend is Martin Luther King Jr. long weekend. So, and there's so many, it's easy for that to just be a long weekend. Okay, great. The kids are home from school on Monday or whatever. There's so much in the world we're in right now that his message, his example, his dedication, his relentlessness, his generosity and selflessness, that speaks to the moment we're in. There's a moment right now of unbelievable voter suppression occurring. I don't know in a year or 2 or 3 if we just keep chugging along as usual. There's some challenges right before us, and he represented something extraordinary. So in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to invite, so it's not just me, invite some graduates to join me who want to talk about his message, but really a message of what it is to be committed, dedicated, passionate, driven, socially conscious and committed, socially caring. So I want to have that conversation in a couple of weeks. I hope you'll join me. So I hope you're happy New Year. Welcome to a brand new year. let's get optimistic. Let's get excited. Let's get on the road. Okay, let's get rolling about stuff that we care about. I just feel very grateful for my life and grateful for my family and grateful for our community at Synergy, which has really helped keep me grounded over this holiday and over these last couple of years in particular. So thank you for that. And I will see you all very soon. Okay, thank you for watching and joining tonight. And let's go forth with what these declarations are for each of us, and let's share them with each other. And let's go and create magic. Okay. All right, everybody. Love you. Love to you. Love to your family. And I'll see everybody very soon. All right. Take care, everybody. Good night.